he was brought back to reality when a familiar voice appeared from nowhere. Hi Marjorie, what are you doing here? Is your husband with you today? It was Marjorie, Jamie's wife. She stepped across the threshold of the elevator. Rob began to tense up as he was unsure if their disguise would survive in front of someone who knew him. I'm here to meet with Teddy. We talked on the phone yesterday. He asked we meet in a few minutes. Michelle's speech slowed as a quizzical look came across her face. There haven't been any problems over the past week. Well, no, not really. It was obvious that Marjorie was uncomfortable with the question. The elevator doors closed behind Marjorie with an ominous thud, leaving her alone with Michelle and the child. She started fidgeting with the foldable playpen in her other hand. Jamie has been a little under the weather. Michelle and Rob looked at each other at the same time. Michelle's gaze moved to the playpen and then up towards Marjorie. Your daughter is a little old for a playpen. Is there someone else in your family with a recent need to use it? Michelle continued to sense a growing uneasiness from Marjorie as she nodded yes. Marjorie, is that playpen for your husband? Marjorie's eyes almost popped out of her head at the thought her husband's secret had been exposed. How did you know? What did Teddy tell you? Michelle just smiled and looked down at her own son. Marjorie slowly followed her gaze towards the stroller when she was met by two eyes staring back at her. Rob didn't say a word, he just let out a small giggle and waved up at her. You mean, that is Rob? Marjorie was stunned at the idea, however her shock quickly turned to amusement. Yes. This is my 8-month-old baby husband. Michelle gave a smirk, knowing she was on the inside of a secret. Rob wrenched his tiny body around to stare up at the two women. Hey. I'm 10 months, there is a big difference. The statement was capped with the laughter of a small child. Michelle snickered. Honorable. I think I know how old my children are. Besides, you're not even supposed to count that high. The doors to the elevator opened as the three exited, with Michelle and Marjorie deep in conversation. As they neared the lab, Marjorie quickened her pace, concerned how Jamie might take the news his boss had also been exposed by the experiment. She entered the lab to see Jamie on Teddy's lap. The baby looked at the baby in the stroller and up at Michelle. I thought your son was almost 2. Michelle stopped and looked at the little child, speaking well beyond his age. Even though she was prepared to see Jamie in this condition, it still amazed her to see a diaper-clad child carrying on a conversation. She looked at Jamie and gave a little smirk. Our son is 2. Jamie, a little confused, looked at the infant. Then who is? Oh no. Professor Leahy. The little child removed his thumb and looked directly at Jamie. Yeeth at me. What do you think of my new ride? Rob Leahy giggled and kicked his legs in the air at the comment before his mother removed him from the stroller. He was placed on the floor and the professor toddled awkwardly for a few steps before resting on his diapered butt and continuing towards Jamie at a crawl. Jamie was placed in a sitting position, staring at the infant crawling towards him. Rob sat down in front of his friend with knees spread out, as his heels were almost touching. They stared at each other for a couple of minutes before they began to talk and giggle like two little children.